So just wanted to first off tell you a brief, quick story that my childhood officially ended when my mother sold every one of my He-Man toys at a yard sale for $2 a pop. I had Gray Skull, I had Skull, I had everything, every single toy, and she sold them all. I'm now 40 years old, and you have given me my childhood back. The show is absolutely everything I was hoping for from the show, and it leaves on a great cliffhanger. Just wanted to know, was it always your intention to, for lack of a better way of putting it, blow up the mythology when you created the show?
We never thought of it as blowing up the mythology because the job that I was given was, hey, we just want the next episode. Like the idea was sequelize the classic series. So, but grow it up a little bit. So, you know, the classic series, of course, was generated primarily for a youthful audience. It's a kid's cartoon. Right. They were like, keep everything the same, but just make it an adult's cartoon, you know. Not, and when I say adult cartoon, I don't mean like, oh my God, the sex is hot. Like there's no sex in Masters of the Universe whatsoever. So it was just, everyone got to mature a little bit. And more importantly, we were allowed to play with stakes. Teddy, our boss, Teddy Biaselli at Netflix, was just like, every episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe I watched as a kid, I always thought Skeletor was going to kill He-Man. Just make me believe that again. He's like, that's what I'm looking for, stakes. So at that point, you know, we were given kind of full reign to kill people. Like we get to knock off some big characters, small characters, and give the world a sense of the world of Motu, a sense of gravity, a sense of like, oh, I guess everything's not going to work out and they're not going to give me a moral at the end of this. So for me, it's a very tricky tightrope walk to kind of throw curveballs to kill characters and stay true to what it does. But the first order of business was always like, people have to recognize it. It has to smell like it. All these characters have to act the way they did in the old cartoon. All the relationships have to be the same. Like you can't reinvent where you're like, look at Evil Lena, cyberpunk, all this. Like everybody plays exactly the way they did in childhood. Your toys are exactly where you left them. But when you come back to them, you're just mature enough to handle a story where they're mature as well, where they have to deal with loss. They have to deal with consequences. They have to deal with fallout from like years of abuse. Because you got to remember, like Skeletor is the worst boss in the world, man. And so we got to play with like adult themes, like, and I say adult, and it sounds so corny, but grown-up themes more so than back in the past. So I never felt like, man, we're gonna blow this apart. And if they wanted that, I wouldn't have been the guy. Like I trust me. By the time we get to the end of part 2, the world is going to be right where we all left it. You know, the story of these things is it starts, you destroy things, and then you spend a lot of time trying to repair those things, which is like what our heroes did in part 1. And they definitely continue to do that in part 2. But it was, for me, like there was never a moment where I was like, this ain't your grandma's He-Man. Like it was like, this is your grandma's He-Man. Like this is the one, man. And we're going to stay as true to it as possible. But some people might get lost along the way.
And the puns, there's so many puns. I love that you kept it so it's fun. There's the nostalgia factor, but then we have recognizable voices. So getting all of these huge names, and Skeletor is now, I'm never going to be able to unhear Mark Hamill's voice. Right. Were you involved in picking who you were going to have as all these voices, and how did you make those decisions?
It was so awesome. You know, like I said, Teddy at Netflix, Teddy Biaselli, was our godfather. So when we were writing the episodes, like he was there and deeply in love with everything. When it came time to casting, you know, generally speaking, like sometimes in animation or strip animation, doing a series, you know, they'll go for wonderful talent, but not name talent, because name talent generally comes with a price tag and whatnot. With Teddy, I was like, look, I know we don't have the money to go after famous people, but can we go after famous people? Because there's a good chance a lot of them grew up watching this shit, and they'll do it for like the price. They won't like hold us over a barrel and get like a king's ransom or something like that. So we start putting together the list. And like, I remember Chris was my immediate contribution, because I was like, oh my God, Woody would kill this. He'd be so amazing as both Adam, because he's got such this innocent voice, and he could totally go deep as He-Man. And He-Man gets help anyway. Like, just like in the old show, we double his voice up, so it sounds very heroic. And then when we started casting the other parts, everybody in the room shouted for Sarah, because everybody in the room was of a certain age who grew up watching Buffy. And in a world where Tila was going to take the forefront and be such a main character, who better than Buffy to play that character and stuff? So Sarah, boom, was an instant cast. Mark as Skeletor was wish list shit. Like, nobody thought we would get him. They were like, you got the best chance because you worked with them before. And I was like, look, I just made Jay and Silent Bob reboot and everybody came back, but Mark couldn't. So no guarantees he's going to show up for this. But he did. He showed up incredibly. And again, it's not because he was like, I was paid handsomely. He showed up because he was like, Skeletor? You want me to play Skeletor? One of the most well-known villains of all time? Done. Lena Headey was somebody that, like, I was big Game of Thrones fan. And since Eva Lynn has such heavy lifting in our version of Masters of the Universe, we needed like a very accomplished actress with nuance. And so, we all know Lena as Cersei, of course. And so it is a natural fit for what everyone thinks of as Evelyn. But like, Lena is this amazing actress who gives us so much on the journey of Evelyn. So Evelyn is not just some one-note mustache twisting villain. And she's not even like, Cersei, who you love to hate. She's struggling. By the time we get to part 2, we show her backstory and it's heartbreaking. Like I love Evelyn's story. And so making sure that we had somebody that could pull that off, we got that in Lena. Even stuff like the Sorceress. Sorceress is played by Susan Eisenberg, who is the voice of Wonder Woman and all the Justice League cartoons and whatnot. And that voice always felt like calm, strength, mothering. So instantly I was like, we need Susan for the Sorceress. Nobody pushed back. Nobody fought. It went like that. It was incredibly easy. Honestly, the list of people that we wanted was the list of people that we got. And again, like thankfully, none of them were like, well, I want the big bucks to be there. They did it for the love. Everyone was in there because they were like, oh my God, I remember this. Oh, like Mark was like, my kids loved this when I was a kid. He called to Mattel at one point to try to track down a Castle Grayskull because he couldn't find one in stores in the 80s for his kids. So, we were able to hook people through sentimentality and nostalgia. And when you got people working like that, and they're not working for a paycheck, but they're working for the love, you get the absolute fucking best out of people. So we got award-winning performances by our cast for this cartoon. We've got an award-winning score from Bear McCreary for this cartoon. Like, people just elevated it. Like Bear, when I was like, Bear, you give us a score that we don't deserve, man. This should go in a feature. And he's going, no. You guys made this, and you could feel the love in it. You could feel the care and the affection for the characters and the history. So he's like, I had to bring that for the score. I had to do as big of a score as he did. We got fortunate with a lot of love behind this project. I mean, trust me, like anything in business, I'm sure somebody somewhere is about like, how much does this cost and what's it going to make? But once the engines got started, man, it was all about affection.
And it shows, and I really appreciate the effort you guys put into it. I was sincere. This was a great thing to watch. It really brought me back to my childhood, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
That means the world, Alex. That's what we were going for, man. We wanted you to have that feeling of like, oh, my toys are exactly where I left them.
Exactly. You did it. Thank you.
You rock, man. Thank you.
Magic gave birth to Eternia, the first planet in all of creation. But now the magic is gone. And without magic, Eternia will rot and die. And as goes Eternia, so goes the entire universe.
I built a life of truth. Away from magic. And now you want me to save magic? Yes, to save Eternia.
If I don't do this, everybody dies.
No!
Whatever became of Eternia, we'll face it together. No one else dies.
But the Sword of Power was destroyed.
Not destroyed. Divided.
Whether you serve Grayskull or Snake Mountain, we all gotta work together now. Or else Eternia dies.
What were we ever fighting for? Being a hero swallows you whole.
Well, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
of destruction.
For Eternia!
Still know the tune?
Some things you can never forget.
I have the power!